Sarah sat across from her husband Mark at the kitchen table. "Mark, I'm not happy. I want a divorce." Though taken aback, Mark wasn't entirely surprised. They had been married for nearly 15 years, but lately Sarah had been spending a lot of time with her thrice-divorced friend Vanessa, who fancied herself a relationship guru. "Mark, are you listening? I want a divorce," she repeated firmly. "Yes, I heard you," Mark replied calmly. "But this is serious. I don't want to rush my response. I've tried to be a devoted husband and father. You haven't mentioned any bedroom issues, so I'm not sure what's gone wrong. But if you're truly unhappy, I'll support you in this, even though it pains me deeply." "Is this a recent feeling or has it been building?" Sarah fidgeted. "It's been gradual. I need space to explore other opportunities, meet new people." She explained the 90-day separation period before the divorce would be finalized. "Maybe I'll change my mind and we can stay married." Mark considered this. Sarah clearly didn't realize he would have the same freedom she did during the separation. "I thought whoever filed first would control whether the marriage continues," Sarah admitted. "I don't think that's fair," Mark countered. "I'll file too, so we're equal." "Does that seem reasonable?" "I guess so," Sarah wavered. "Are you saying you want a divorce too? I thought I was an adequate husband." "Apparently not. No, I don't want one, but I won't stand in the way of your happiness." He paused. "Have you started the paperwork yet?" She hadn't. Mark suggested using the next 2 weeks to prepare for the separation, so they could begin on the 1st of the month. That night, Sarah tossed and turned, stunned by Mark's unexpected response. She needed to update Vanessa and get her advice on next steps. Vanessa would know what to do. This assurance finally allowed Sarah to drift off. In the morning, Sarah found Mark asleep in the guest room, having stayed up all night working on a separation checklist. Tasks were divided into columns, items to change like insurance policies, memberships, bank accounts. Another page listed his anticipated apartment expenses and child support projections to maintain the kids' lifestyle, which would leave them short hundreds each month. He had brainstormed cost-cutting measures, like fewer fast food runs, which almost made Sarah smile. She added her own expenses: gym membership, book club dues, weekly girls' nights out. He had even detailed the kids' extracurricular activity fees and school supplies. Sarah hadn't factored the impact on the children into her divorce plan. Another page outlined responsibilities Sarah would need to take over, like car maintenance, home repairs, grocery shopping. Her head was spinning. Why wasn't Mark begging her to stay and promising to cater to her every whim? She needed to call Vanessa before he woke up. "Vanessa, we have a problem," Sarah whispered into the phone. Instead of pleading with me, Mark agreed to the divorce. Then he started listing all the things he does that I'll have to handle alone. He's getting an apartment and only wants the kids on weekends. He insists we truly separate to make an informed choice after 90 days. He doesn't seem scared of divorce at all. What do I do?" Vanessa scoffed. "Oh honey, he's bluffing, trying to manipulate you. No way he'll sign papers. It's pathetic he has to point out every little chore to make you feel dependent. Bottom line, you have the kids and the cookie. That's all the leverage you need. Don't stress. Soon you'll be in Patrick's bed with a husband and home to go back to." "I hope you're right, and Patrick is worth all this," Sarah sighed. "Well, Mark hasn't done anything yet. I'll stay strong, at least until I see his next move." "Thanks, Vanessa. He's getting up, gotta go." Sarah hung up and tried to steady her nerves. She glanced again at Mark's list of potential women, which had startled her. Her own sister Erin was named, along with Mark's secretary, an attractive single mom 15 years his junior. Other coworkers and acquaintances were listed too. Sarah hadn't expected him to actually date during their time apart. Did he already have someone in mind? Mark entered the kitchen and noticed Sarah flipping through his notebook. He had an inkling where this was headed. "Wasted no time lining up my replacement, huh? My own sister, really, Mark?" Sarah snapped. "Just keeping pace with your boyfriend's search," he replied evenly. "What about Patrick Brennan?" Sarah blanched. "How do you know about that?" Mark explained he had run into Sylvia, her boss's gossipy secretary, who mentioned Sarah's close friendship with their new colleague Patrick, despite the firm's strict policy against office romances. Mark had played it off, claiming they were just college buddies. "How far have you taken your research with Patrick?" Mark probed. Sarah squirmed, recalling their heated elevator encounter. "We're just friends. We've barely done anything. I think he's someone I'd like to date. He's always so attentive and flattering. Anything his wife wouldn't approve of?" Mark continued. "Wife? He's not married." "Who said that?" Sarah sputtered. Mark pulled up Patrick's Facebook page. "Married to Lydia, 2 sons. Updated 3 days ago. Looks like they're still very much together." Sarah was stunned. "He never told me. I would never help break up a marriage." "But you're fine with breaking up ours," Mark noted pointedly. Cornered, Sarah needed to think. Patrick was the main reason she had considered ending things. She couldn't let Mark find out. Well, he was just one guy the first might date. "I can make a list too, you know," she blustered. Mark interjected. "Oh, one crucial thing. If we stay married after separating, we'll need to exchange medical tests to confirm we're both free of STDs." "Gross, Mark. I wasn't really going to date anyone. It's only 90 days. But if I get the urge, I'll find someone. I'm sure you'd want me to be safe too. It's not just about me, but who you sleep with, who they've slept with, and so on." Mark tried to hide his smirk as Sarah fumed. Changing the subject, he updated her on the separation process, prioritizing bank accounts so she had easy money access, then utilities and mortgage details soon after. He had good news on the apartment front too. His secretary Jenny, who moonlighted as a leasing agent, had found him an affordable 2-bedroom unit. Normally pricey, but with a 50% discount if he did some maintenance work there. More money for Sarah and the kids. He hadn't signed the lease yet though. Jenny had been surprised to learn of the divorce and had expressed interest in Mark despite their age gap. He had gently rebuffed her, citing workplace dating policies. But she had said she would find a new job if that's what it took. Hence her name on his list. Sarah was livid but bit her tongue, knowing it would only make things worse. Undeterred, Mark continued. "I have a surprise you'll like. I booked us a 10-day trip to Paris for our 15th anniversary." Sarah's anger evaporated. "Paris? Oh, Mark, I've always dreamed of going." "Thank you, this is incredible. I can't wait to see the Eiffel Tower and stroll along the Seine." But Mark wasn't smiling. "We won't be going to Paris. When you brought up divorce, I realized we might not make it to 15 years. I tried to cancel for a refund, but it was too late. I could only get 20% back. Then I figured, Paris is more your dream than mine. You should still experience it. So I had them put the tickets in your name and a guest of your choosing. An all-expenses-paid trip to Paris would be an amazing way to start a new relationship." Sarah's heart sank. "But Mark, I wanted to go to Paris with you. We could postpone the separation. Actually, I'm thinking of calling the whole thing off." Mark sighed. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I've thought a lot about this. I don't think I could be happy knowing divorce was always on the table. Even if you take it back now, I can't unhear what you said you wanted. And I can't unsee what you and Patrick might have done. I'll probably go through with the divorce no matter what. I can't imagine life without you and only being a part-time dad though." With that, Mark retreated to the guest room. Sarah was crushed. She knew only one person could help her now. "Vanessa, it's all falling apart." Sarah took a shuddering breath, trying to compose herself. Mark found an apartment and his skinny secretary is already after him. "Even my sister wants to date him." Sarah paused, a lump forming in her throat as she recalled the final insult. "Worst of all, he had tickets to Paris for our anniversary. He gave them to me to use, but he won't go with me. He said I should take my new boyfriend." "What now?" On the other end of the line, Vanessa was quiet for a moment, the silence stretching out as Sarah wiped away a stray tear. Finally, her friend's voice came through, laced with a mixture of sympathy and calculation. "Wow, I underestimated Mark. He's craftier than I thought. That Paris trip was just a ploy to make you feel guilty and stop the divorce. Don't worry, with your hot body, you'll snag a man as good as Patrick in no time. And still keep your marriage and family. Let's talk later." Sarah ended the call, her mind whirling with Vanessa's words. Was Mark really that manipulative? She had always seen him as a straightforward, honest man, but now she wasn't so sure. The sound of footsteps on the stairs jolted her from her thoughts. Mark appeared, a small suitcase in hand, his expression unreadable. Sarah felt a surge of anger rise within her. So you're really moving out, huh? Good, leave then. She lashed out, her words laced with venom. Mark's brow furrowed, and he set the suitcase down, his movements slow and deliberate. Actually, I'm just taking a few things so I don't have to move it all at once and upset the kids, he explained, his tone even. Jenny said I could move some stuff in early since it's vacant. But you seem different than earlier. Let me guess, you called your marriage guru? Sarah bristled at the jab. Don't insult Vanessa. She's a divorce expert. And she figured out your Paris ticket scheme. You made that up to manipulate me into giving up. Well played. But I still want this divorce. I can't wait to be free. Plenty of men out there want me and will give me what I need. Mark's expression softened, and he nodded slowly. You're right, you'll have your pick of men once you're single, he agreed, his voice tinged with sadness. I've always felt incredibly lucky to have such a beautiful wife, mother to my children, and until recently, faithful partner. But you're wrong about Paris. I can prove it. Let's call Lois at the travel agency right now. Sarah hesitated, uncertainty flickering across her face. Mark pulled out his phone and dialed, putting the call on speaker. After a few rings, a cheerful voice answered. Hello, Lois speaking. Hi Lois, it's Mark Stevenson. I have Sarah with me as well. Could you please confirm the details of the Paris trip I booked for our anniversary? There was a brief pause as Lois consulted her records. Of course, Mr. Stevenson. I have here that you booked a luxury 10-day trip to Paris for you and your wife Sarah, departing on your 15th anniversary in 3 weeks. The reservation was made 3 months ago as a surprise gift. Sarah's mouth went dry as Lois continued. Yesterday, you called to cancel the trip for both of you, but suggested that Mrs. Stevenson still go with someone else if she wished. That says a lot about the kind of husband you are. She's very fortunate. A stunned silence fell over the room as Lois finished speaking. Sarah struggled to find her voice, grasping for an explanation. You think you've outsmarted me again, huh? You and Lois planned this Paris story before I even brought up divorce. But I'm onto you. Mark just sighed, his shoulders sagging slightly as he dialed another number. You should talk to your parents, he said, putting the call on speakerphone once more. Why? What do they have to do with this? Sarah asked, flustered. Hi Evelyn, Harold, Mark greeted his in-laws warmly. Sarah knows everything now, so no need to keep it secret. Oh Mark, we're so sorry you two can't go to Paris. Evelyn's voice came through, laced with concern. We were looking forward to having the grandkids for 10 days. And we felt awful Sarah couldn't experience it with you. Have you picked someone else to take, honey? Sarah felt her heart sink as the realization dawned on her. How long ago did Mark tell you about the trip? She cut in, her voice barely above a whisper. Around New Year's, wasn't it? Harold chuckled. He wanted to give us plenty of notice to stock up on snacks. Those kids can eat. Is everything okay with Sarah? Did something happen between you two? Evelyn asked, her tone laced with worry. Sarah opened her mouth to respond, but Mark beat her to it. Not exactly, Mom, he said, his voice heavy. The first step in our divorce is a 90-day separation. Sarah wants to find herself, meet new people, improve herself. Her words. A sharp intake of breath came from the other end of the line. Divorce? Sarah, do you have a boyfriend? Harold demanded, his voice stern. No, Dad. Absolutely not. Sarah insisted, her cheeks flushing with shame. I'm so disappointed in you. We raised you better than this. Don't expect us to be nice to your new man. We're so sorry, Mark. Please let us still see the grandkids, Harold pleaded, his words punctuated by the sound of Evelyn's muffled sobs. Sarah felt as though the ground had been ripped out from under her feet. Stop. Mark is exaggerating. I take it back. No separation, no divorce. I'll call you later when things settle down, she backpedaled, her voice trembling. An uncomfortable silence descended upon the room as Sarah ended the call with her parents. She looked up at Mark, her eyes brimming with unshed tears, a myriad of emotions swirling within her. Sarah took a deep, shuddering breath, steeling herself for the difficult conversation that lay ahead. Wiping away tears, Sarah begged Mark to stay. "You don't have to go anywhere. I'm sorry. Everything was fine before I brought up divorce. Can't we just forget it? You unilaterally decided you wanted a divorce without discussing it with me. Now you think you can unilaterally decide we're not getting divorced because it's not going how you hoped? I have a say too. After what I've learned this week, I'm not sure stopping the divorce is wise. I'll grab my sleeping bag and stay at the apartment tonight," Mark said, heading for the door. "Mark, please don't go. I'm so sorry. You said it yourself, divorce would be hard on both of us. Don't you want to avoid that pain? I swear I'll never mention divorce again. Please stay and work it out," Sarah pleaded through sobs. Mark was quiet. Sarah thought she was getting through to him. "I'll be the best wife in the world. I won't even look at another man. I've given you 15 years, 2 great kids, supported your career even when you worked late. I'm so proud of you. People make mistakes. Please give me one more chance." Finally, Mark spoke. "I'll tell you what. I'll take my stuff to the apartment. But I want you to write a few things down. Your words and actions have hurt me more than you know. If your answers are what I hope for, I'll think about stopping or at least pausing the divorce. I'll be back by 7. You may want to send the kids to their grandparents so we can talk openly." "Yes, thank you. What do you want me to write?" Sarah asked eagerly. "First, I want an apology for starting all this. I want you to beg for my forgiveness. Second, tell Patrick to stop contacting you. Any consequences if he doesn't? Warn him I'll take legal action against him and your firm if he doesn't comply. Third, list all the reasons I should consider staying married to you. And lastly, call Vanessa and tell her you're done with her forever. If I ever hear her toxic advice again, I'm gone for good. Understand? Yes, I'll do it all and be ready by 7. Sarah promised. Sarah focused on the last task. Rehearsing her words to Vanessa, she declared, "Listening to you was the biggest mistake of my life. I almost lost everything because of you. Don't ever contact me again. If I see you in public, avoid me or else." Feeling relieved, Sarah called Patrick next and relayed Mark's message. Patrick begged to meet one last time at a hotel, hurling insults and accusations. Sarah shut him down, threatening to call his wife if he kept harassing her. The list of reasons for Mark to stay ended up being the easiest part. Free from wanting more than her life with Mark, Sarah reflected on all the joys they shared. She filled a whole page, hoping it would sway him. "I'm so sorry for this divorce nonsense. How foolish and selfish of me. Never again." As 7 p.m. neared, Sarah felt ready. But the hour came and went with no sign of Mark. Worry crept in. 5 minutes later, he appeared without his luggage, face unreadable. Sarah handed him her list, trying to stay humble. "I hope this changes your mind," she said softly. Mark studied the list for a long time, eyes glistening with tears. Seeing him cry, Sarah teared up too, hopeful. "Sarah, this is really something," he said thickly. Heart fluttering, Sarah rose to hug him, but he motioned for her to sit. "You put in a good effort here. But I'm not sure you grasp how deeply you've hurt me. I think I need to go through with the divorce," he said heavily. Sarah was devastated, feeling her heart shatter. She collapsed to the floor, sobbing harder than she ever had. Lost in despair, she wailed, "I've ruined my family. I'm the worst person alive. I don't deserve to live. How could I be so stupid?" Mark knelt beside her and whispered, "Now you know how I felt." Sarah continued weeping as Mark walked to the door. But he paused and glanced back at her. "During our separation, are we allowed to see other people?" Struggling to compose herself, Sarah choked out, "If dating is permitted, what are your plans for Friday night? Would you like to go to dinner and a movie with me?" Sarah's head snapped up in disbelief. "You're asking me out on a date?" "Yes," Mark said softly. "I think our old relationship is irreparably changed. but maybe we could start fresh. Renewed hope surged through Sarah. She rushed over and embraced him tightly. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. Over the next few days, Sarah worked hard to show Mark how committed she was to making their marriage work. She cut off all contact with Vanessa and Patrick. She made a sincere effort to take on more household responsibilities that had previously fallen on Mark's shoulders. Their first date night was tentative but promising. The easy banter and comfortable silences reminded them of their courtship years. As they left the restaurant, Sarah laced her fingers through Mark's, giving his hand a gentle squeeze. "Thank you for this second chance. I won't take it for granted." Mark squeezed back with a small smile. One day at a time. The 90-day separation period passed gradually. There were bumpy moments as they renegotiated their roles and boundaries. But Sarah's commitment never wavered. She found herself rediscovering the man she had fallen for so long ago. On the 91st day, Mark arrived at the house with his belongings from the apartment. Sarah opened the door with a radiant smile. "Welcome home," she said simply. Pulling her into a soulful kiss, Mark knew he had finally found